Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 10th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. These are the verses which are describing the different incarnations of the Supreme Lord. 22 incarnations are given in this list. So today we will be discussing the 5th incarnation in the list of 22. Panchamaha Kapilo Nama Siddhesha Kala Viplutam Provacha Asuraye Sankhyam Tattvagrama Vinirnayam. The meaning of this verse is, the 5th incarnation named Lord Kapila is foremost among perfected beings, Siddheshaha. He gave an exposition of the creative elements, Tattvagrama, and metaphysics to Asuri Brahmana, Asuraye Sankyam, for in course of time this knowledge had been lost, Kala Viplutam. So, here is the name of the 5th incarnation in the list of 22 incarnations, Lord Kapila. Now, at the outset, I would like to clarify that there are 2 Kapilas who have explained the Sankhya philosophy. The ancient and the original personality, Lord Kapila, is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord who appeared as the son of Devahuti and Kardama Rishi. He is the Supreme Lord who appeared millions of years back in order to explain this Sankhya philosophy. And the explanation given by the incarnation of the Lord about Sankhya philosophy is, it is not different from Bhakti Yoga. It is same as Bhakti, devotional service. Whereas there is one another Kapila who is a Nirishwarvadi. He is a atheistic person. He also explained Sankhya philosophy by explaining that there are 24 elements of matter. But he does not consider this Nirishwarvadi Kapila, the later Kapila. He does not consider the spirit soul. He does not consider the super soul, Paramatma. He does not consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's behind everything, in the background. Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, only because of his superintendence, material nature is working and producing all the changes. So, this atheistic Kapila does not take into account the spirit soul, which is actually moving matter. Matter by itself has no power to move. Matter by itself has no power to interact or change. Matter is always dependent on spirit. So that is missed out. Spirit is completely missed out by the atheistic Kapila. So his explanation is incomplete. Though what he explains is 24 elements of matter are the same, because his source is also the original Vedas only. but he gives an interpretation to the Vedas. He gives his own interpretation to the Vedas. He says ultimately that everything in existence can be explained in terms of these 24 elements of matter. That means whatever is there in existence is simply a combination of one or more of these 24 elements. That's all. But that is incorrect, because at the beginning of creation, matter was inert condition, and the Supreme Lord, who always eternally exists in his original position, he activated material energy, and then it became, it differentiated into the 24 elements, 23 elements actually. And then the combination of these elements to form different material varieties is done by the Supreme Lord Vishnu as Virat Purusha, and by Brahma, who is awarding the bodies, the material bodies for the living beings who are entangled in this material existence, who are not liberated, or conditioned souls. So all this is possible only because of the Supreme Spirit and the Creator Brahma, who is also Spirit Soul. So without Spirit, matter has no power by itself. Matter is inert. Matter has to be acted upon by Spirit. So Lord Kapila, he explained this knowledge about Sankhya philosophy, the fundamental understanding about the creative elements. Before the creation, the elements are there. Just like the five Pancha Mahabhuta, the five great elements, the gross elements, earth, water, fire, air and sky. And then the three subtle elements, mind, intelligence, ego. And then there are the 10 senses. So 8 plus 10, 18. Then there are the 5 sense objects, 23. So these 23 elements are differentiated from the material energy at the beginning of this creation. So there is a beginning, and that beginning is from the material energy being acted upon by the Supreme Lord's glance. By his glancing, everything is happening. It's beginning. So like that, this Lord Kapila, who is the incarnation of the Lord, Supreme Lord, he explained perfectly. So he explains the 24 elements, then explains the 25th element as the soul, 26th element as time factor, and 27th element as a super soul. So this atheist Kapila misses out the time factor, misses out the spirit soul, individual spirit soul, misses out the super soul. So the atheist Kapila is giving an incomplete explanation, imperfect explanation. Now, Srila Prabhupada makes another important point here, that everything is, all the knowledge is there in the beginning of creation, given by the Supreme Lord. But in this material world, in course of time, the knowledge becomes lost. Just like Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanaham avyayam. This knowledge, which is eternally existing, knowledge of the science of yoga, which Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, that knowledge was given by Krishna to Sun God millions of years back. And it was coming down in parampara, but in course of time, sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa, it was lost in course of time. Similarly, the knowledge of Sankhya philosophy was there in the beginning of the creation, but it was lost in course of time. Kala viplutam. And then Lord Kapila appeared as the son of Devahuti and Kardama Rishi, great devotees. And he appeared as their son, and he explained this Sankhya philosophy in a very lucid way, in a very easily understandable way. And it is given in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. The appearance of Lord Kapila as the son of Devahuti and Kardama Rishi, and how Devahuti actually questions her own son, whom she recognizes as the Supreme Lord, Incarnation Supreme Lord. So she questions. And Lord Kapila, in reply to Devahuti's questions, explains the whole Sankhya philosophy. And that is given in the second half of the third canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. In quite detail, it is explained. It is given in the Bhagavatam. So, this Sankhya philosophy is called as metaphysics by the European scholars. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy which examines the real nature of things, fundamental nature of things. So even in our Sankhya philosophy as given by Lord Kapila, the Incarnation Supreme Lord, it is examining the fundamental nature of matter and explaining the different elements which combine to form the different varieties of material objects.